Here's another one of my favorite clips from Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. This is on Vietnam.
To guarantee liberties in Southeast Asia, which they had not found in Southwest Georgia and East Holland. So we have been repeatedly faced with the cruel irony of watching Negro and white boys on TV screens as they kill and die together for a nation that has been unable to seat them together in the same schoolroom. So we watch them in brutal solidarity, burning the huts of a poor village. But we realize that they would hardly live on the same block in Chicago or Atlanta. As I have walked among the desperate, rejected, and angry young men, I have told them that Molotov cocktails and rifles would not solve their problems. But they ask, and rightly so, what about Vietnam? They ask if our own nation wasn't using massive doses of violence to solve its problems. And I knew that I could never again raise my voice against the violence of the oppressed in the ghettos without having first spoken clearly to the greatest purveyor of violence in the world today, my own government. America and most of its newspapers applauded me in Montgomery, and I stood before thousands of Negroes getting ready to riot when my home was bombed, and said, we can't do it this way. They applauded us in the sit-in movement, and we nonviolently decided to sit in at lunch counters. They applauded us on the freedom rides when we accepted blows without retaliation. Oh, the press was so noble in its applause and so noble in its praise when I was saying, be nonviolent toward Bull Connor. There's something strangely inconsistent about a nation and a press that will praise you when you say be nonviolent toward Jim Clark, but will curse and damn you when you say be nonviolent toward little brown Vietnamese children. There's something wrong with that press.
You can't add anything to that speech because it's so good. His point is, don't be a hypocrite. Do you favor nonviolence or do you not favor nonviolence? So let's be nonviolent within our own struggles for equality here and overseas in Vietnam. Man, white people were so brazen. Of course, it's not all white people. I'm talking specifically about the ones who were the over-the-top assholes, which was many of them, and it was the entire establishment. But white people were like, yeah, oh no, totally, be nonviolent here. Definitely don't lash out at Bull Connor, no matter what they do to you. If they stick the fire hoses or the dogs or any of that stuff on you, just respond peacefully, turn the other cheek, don't cause too much trouble, yada, yada, yada. But then, of course, when it came to Vietnam, they're like, all right, black people, we need you to sign up and go be violent. They're like, what the fuck? You tell us, okay, use violence over there because we want you to use it, but here at home, when you have an oppressor here, no, don't use violence here. Like, in all seriousness, it's just stupid. Like, the argument from the white establishment was just retarded. Like, oh God, it would make me so angry if I was a young black kid back then. I have to say, man, look, and again, this is part of the brilliance of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., is that, look, at the time, I probably would have gravitated to Malcolm X, because Malcolm X was more like, no, let's stop playing around here, by any means necessary. So the brilliance of Dr. Martin Luther King was that he was able to gain a lot of support from white people and from Jews and from other people. And at the time, he built this grand coalition because of that message, because he didn't take the bait, right? A lot of people took the bait and they were like, fuck it, let's just have a fucking revolution here. But you were never going to outgun the U.S. government. It just wasn't going to happen. So Martin Luther King comes along, he's like, woo, 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 shh. Okay, yeah, we know they're stupid, we know it's fucked up, we know they have ridiculous arguments and no logic, but if you preach nonviolence, maybe some of them will join our side and they'll see we're right, okay? And then that'll get us to our goal quicker. And it did. And it did. And all he's saying in terms of war is be consistent, man. If you're going to be talk about nonviolence here at home against our oppressor, let's also be nonviolent in Vietnam, and let's end the war. And that's what he's standing up for and fighting for, ending the war. And to the idea that, and Martin goes on to talk about this too, to the idea that communism is such a threat, that's why we need to go fight people in Vietnam. Really? So what, the communists in Vietnam are going to invade Nebraska if you guys don't go fight them over there? It was a bullshit argument then. It's a bullshit argument now when people make similar arguments about caliphates and whatnot. And Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. was able to spot it and destroy the arguments with sheer logic, and he was able to achieve many of his goals. But again, one of the main reasons he was assassinated is that he wasn't done. He wasn't done after the Voting Rights Act and the Civil Rights Act. He was getting into the minimum wage argument and unionization and anti-war arguments and healthcare, and the establishment was beyond scared, beyond afraid, so you know how that story ended.